one of the big things that I'm working on is the new to Z and the students, getting the new people into the community. Because we started out, I guess this will be the fourth time that we've had like a new to Z student opening on Sunday night.
Mm-hmm.
We started out the first time and we had myself, Shelly Monterey with IBM, and Kelia Estrada with Broadcom, and we had like
Mm-hmm.
15 people show up. And we thought,
Okay.
hey, that's pretty good. And then they had one last year, but that's when I was out on leave and I couldn't make it, and they had a bigger crowd. But the one we just did in Orlando, we had 147 people show up. So getting, there's three types of people who come to that meeting. There's the new students, or the current students who are trying to figure out what this community means. There's the graduated students who are looking to try to figure out a job, and then they're the ones that call new to Z they're already out in the community, but I think Shari and Shelley count them as like less than 10 years experience, but they want to move into the Z or the mainframe community. So we slated programs for all of them, and we kind of have the meeting on Sunday night to kind of guide them into, hey, there's a lot of stuff here for you, because a lot of them are very tentative when they come in the first time and they don't know anybody,
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. I mean, it's hard for people that are new to the space, they don't know anyone. And then, particularly if you get, I assume this is still the case, but I remember back when I was working with networking events, the young professionals group, like, they just didn't realize like networking was a hard skill to learn.
And that's kind of one of the things I liked on your question is everybody talks about share. Oh, there's technical sessions, there's technical presentations. But to me, the value is the conversations you have out in the hall, over lunch, at the bar, at the STE, of where you can walk up and talk to someone. And that's kind of where we kind of say, look, we all talk to them about don't waste your networking opportunities. And one of the things that I always tell the volunteers and the new people, find one of us, ask us, like Rosalind Ratliff is a perfect example. Somebody
Mm-hmm.
was at a conference and I said, hey, I'm Dusty Rivers, I'm on the board. Who would you like to meet this week? And they said, I'd love to meet Rosalind. I'm like, well, she's right there. Oh, I could never walk up and talk to her. And I'm like, come with me. So I tell people, find someone, introduce yourself, ask them who they want to meet, and then take them to meet that person.
Mm-hmm.
And I agree with you 100%. It's hard to learn the skill of networking until you practice it.
Yeah, exactly. And I think it's also hard to convince someone that they need to network. At least maybe it's a little bit different now. It kind of depends on what kind of job economy you graduate in too.
Right.
Like if it's booming, then you may feel like less likely you need to network. But I think the longer you've been in your role and the economy you're in, like you start to realize how important it is to know people who can help you explore new careers, find you opportunities, help you solve problems in your own job that you might love, but you're having, a challenge. So,
Well, we also tell them, you know, the number one, and everyone gets this question wrong every time I ask it, is I said, what is the one thing all of you have to learn to sell? And they all look at me like I'm not in sales. I don't want to do that. And I said, you have to learn to sell yourself.
mhm.
You have to build your brand up on LinkedIn, link to people, because that's one of the things with Share is you can meet a lot of people. It's more about the community. Yeah, you're going to get some valuable training, but it's the 2 o'clock on a Friday, you have an issue and you think, oh, I remember talking to Amanda. Let me just ping her on LinkedIn and see if she has and it's that level of connectivity that it's not some random person trying to sell me something. It's someone who needs some help in their job, or they have a quick and dirty question. And so, there's LinkedIn, there's all the other profiles that people use. And I think you're absolutely right, is a lot of people forget that there's a big, humongous community out there of mainframe people, and somebody is going to know the answer. We have with the IBM champions, we have a community that we can throw questions out. So,
Mhm.
and we will throw things out there like, hey, does anybody know someone who does X? But we also do it for hiring. We have a community that we can throw questions out. is I tell all the all the kids, because I go to the universities too, is I'll say, link to me on LinkedIn. And when you get ready to graduate, let me know. And I said, but the one thing you need to know I'm going to do is you send me your resume and tell me who you are and you met me at Southern Mississippi or NIU or whatever, is I'm going to go back to, Professor Decker or Professor Owar at Albany State or Dr. Lee at Southern. And I'm going to ask them, okay, I remember meeting this person. Is this, or is this resume accurate? And they look at me, I was like, why would you do that? And I'm like, if you really want me to push your resume to people I know, I have to know that you didn't just make stuff up. I hate to say that, because a lot of people, I know you've never had anyone pad their resume before with that.
I know. But well, I think that's a good idea, because it also reflects on your willingness to refer people, and you can't refer people that you don't trust or you don't know. Like, you could make an introduction, but it's going to be more meaningful if you can really like put your opinion behind it, and
right.
And even knowing something more about that person, or knowing, like, I've seen their resume, I talked to this person, their professor sends, those little things help people's confidence in you when you make a referral too. And
I did that with one student. I don't want to use her name or the company, but she called me and said, I'm having a real hard time getting in. And I said, okay, well, what do you want to do? Where do you want to? And the important question is, what do you really want to do? You can't just put, I want to be in IT. It's like, okay, what would you like to do in IT? Are you database and she mentioned to me, here's what I'd like to do. And I said, okay, where do you want to work? And she goes, well, what do you mean? I said, okay, well, do you want to work remote? Do you want to move somewhere? Can you move somewhere? So I kind of talked back and forth with her on LinkedIn, and she said, well, I've applied at all these 10 places. And I said, let me have your resume. And then I pinged someone who's a fairly high ranking person at a company. And their comment to me was, hey, just tell them to go through our career portal. And I'm like, no, you need to look at this resume, because this person is going to be valuable to your organization. And he did look at it and he goes, oh, thank you because they get thousands of resumes, and they don't really, also with these days, with the advent of AI, you don't know if the resumes are real or not. And if it comes with a referral, or if it comes from somebody, it does carry a little bit more weight, because like, if someone says, Amanda mentioned this, it's like, okay, I know Amanda, I know I've known her for a while. That's good. But if they just say, hey, I got asked yesterday, hey, can you do an interview? And I'm like, with who? Well, this up and coming, had no idea who it was. And I'm like, well, before I agree to do that, you need to give me a look. But like when you said, would you like to do this? I'm like, okay, we've talked before. I've dealt with you before. I've dealt with Planet Mainframe before. And so it makes a difference when it's personal.
Mm-hmm. It really does. When you think about it today, every company out there, I think big or small, because of the tools they're using to collect resumes, like they're going through systems. They're going through those evaluation systems that are checking for keywords, and you hope a good candidate has used the right keywords, because they've got to get to the next step. And building your network gets you a lot of times past the computer generated, let me give you the top 10 candidates list. It helps.
Also what I tell them, the new to Z, and also the students, is you can go to YouTube and watch a video. You can watch a video on LinkedIn. You can watch IBM videos. The one thing that you get and share in person is, if you're sitting in a session and you have a question, you can ask that question. But also, if you don't have time to ask, you can find the speaker after the session or at one of the events and just say, do you have a minute? I have a question. And every speaker is very accommodating to that. They love to answer questions. And I think that's one of the in-person event gives you the capability to have that interaction, where if you just watched a video and you thought, I'd really like to ask a question, but I can't, it gives you that ability. I've been in online sessions, and also you look over, like you and I are talking now, and over to the right, you've got the chat window open, and there's like 37 questions going, and you can't address all of them after the sessions. And there's usually like 15 minutes between the sessions, but you can also take it in the hall, or they'll say, hey, can you meet me at the STE, or can you meet me later? And I think the in-person event kind of gives you that face. You can see that face later and say, hey, can I send you an email? I have some more questions. And I think that's what, we were talking about that when you asked me earlier, is I think that's another thing, is being able to connect the face with the idea to say, I remember so-and-so. I think someone said you learn when you write stuff down, or when you hear it and see it, you remember it better rather than just reading it out of a book. It's the interaction when you can hear a point, discuss it, go back, ask questions, refine your question. And that's one of the things that it gives you. We also, the speakers are pretty much experts in what they're talking about. So, it's funny to see the list of speakers, and then I'm sure you get them too, is you get constant emails of, we're doing a presentation on this, and you see the session they're going to be doing is one of the speakers you could have walked up and talked to, but you didn't. And so I think that's also the in-person basically gives you that capability. And then working on share, because I worked as director of operations for a while, is the focus constantly shifts. Now we're seeing more sessions on AI, more sessions on DevOps, more sessions on quantum, and those things didn't exist years ago. So the slate of topics constantly morphs and improves, and you're still going to have technical sessions on the things like IMS and Kix and DB2 and programming. But now the new flavors are coming in, and then also the skills, the skills session too, which is where, back to your original question, where you said some of the younger people don't know how to network. They're having sessions on, this is how you build your network. So, and so you kind of have a good mix of the week of, I used to say there's no excuse not to be in a session, because if you're a database person, you still need to know soft skills, and you still need to know what's coming in AI, and you still need to know what's coming in DevOps. So, the wide gamut, and also afterwards you get the prospectus. If there's a session that you didn't go to, you can get their slides later. But more often than not, most people don't realize there's an LMS, or a learning management system, where a lot of the speakers will record their session. So if I was doing a session at the same time Amanda was presenting and I missed your session, you probably uploaded your session and recorded it too. So.
Yeah, exactly. And I think one of the things that Art and I were talking about is the schedule, I think for a couple of conferences now, has been built around learning outcomes. So
right.
It's not about like picking what you do, but picking like what you need to learn. And you made a great point, like this cross-functional skill set is what you've got to create.
Well, and you can come up with it used to be that if you were an IMS person, you would go to every IMS session that was there, but some of them are intro sessions. So maybe you already know that, but opposite that session, there's a database session. So you're absolutely correct. You can basically, and because the grid is published ahead of time, you can say, hey, look, I don't have anything this session. Let me look sideways and see what else is scheduled next to me. And here's my goal for the week. And, they're going more to that, because, you're looking at more of even this time I saw one of the things like Jeffrey, one of the instructors at NIU is going to be teaching assembler. He teaches an assembler. He's going to be teaching he teaches assembler at NIU. Well, so many people said, there's no course that just teaches it. So they ask, he's going to do a session at this one and the next couple where for an hour, you're basically going to be taught like he's teaching a class. So if you thought, wow, I've got some people that are coming to the course, I'm going to make sure Dusty goes to assembler, because at the end of one of the things is we've gone into the idea of badges. So if you take these 4 classes, you can get a badge for security, or you take these 5 classes, you can get a badge for DevOps. And those look, that's another thing back to selling yourself. if you stack those badges on your LinkedIn or on your, you can already say, look, I've gotten a badge for this learning pattern. And there's going to be that at the end of the course, you can say, I attended this, so I'm certified or badged for assembler.
Yeah, I love that. I love that.
And there is no, the good thing is there is no cost. A lot of the thing, if you go to the conference, basically an outcome is you get a badge. A lot of the other badgings, you have to pay to take a course to get accredited. At Share, because you're there, by default, you can get the badges.
Right. I think that there's a lot of different elements to Share. I love hearing about the badging as another added one, because it's really such a good, like, all-inclusive conference. You get access to all these sessions. You get to go to the keynotes, the larger sessions. There's networking events that happen. You've got New to Z on Sunday night. I think they're also doing another Women in Tech session on Sunday.
They are.
You can have that, and then you've got to make sure that you hit up the STE, because there's so much you can learn from the vendors. Even if they're not presenting, they're there and they're accessible and they're so willing to help.
And also, one of the things that we as board members get asked is, do you know who does X? We know all the vendors, and we can say, well, have you talked to the vendor over here? And a lot of people view it, I view the STE as kind of a community reunion. You're seeing people that you see once or twice a year that you can figure out, okay, what's new? And you can start at one end. Yes, they're there to talk about their products, but you can also start seeing where the trends in the industry are going. It's like, a year or two ago, you started seeing, here's an AI vendor.
Yeah, the one.
Yeah, one. And then there's two, then there's three, and then now you're seeing quantum. And so you're starting, you can kind of figure out the trends, and you can walk up and say, well, what are you seeing in the industry? Because like you said, a lot of the things that we're talking about this time or presenting or sharing are things that weren't around a year or two ago. They're going to be talking about, see if I get the quantum safe computing. It's
yes.
Like people look at that and say, well, I'm not into quantum computers, but it's like, okay, but you need to be aware of what's coming. And so there are going to be quantum safe, they're doing that blueprint session is going to be on quantum post. I have to get it right because I say it wrong. It's post quantum computing is once the quantum is available, the ramifications of what quantum is going to do in the security space. And that's a whole different thing. Well, you need to start planning for these things now, because if you are I'm an old professional, I'm having to learn a lot of this stuff, but as a young professional, you can kind of start seeing, oh, I didn't realize that I may be interested in AI, so you can make a turn, or I want to go into DevOps, or I want to go to mainframe, or I want to go into, the quantum stuff sounds interesting. You are not locked in. And I think I have a lot of people that I worked with, and they will say, I've been a COBOL programmer for 20 years. That's good for you. I've diversified. A lot of people like to go different ways, and this is also another way where maybe at your company you're hearing we're doing AI, but you're not directly working on that. You can go find out, okay, what is the buzz, what's going on.
I think in the past 15 to 20 years, there's really been a shift from I know one thing and I know it really well and I can do it on repeat,
right,
to it's important for me to understand all of these different aspects. We did a report earlier this year called Arcadi, and one of the things we saw is like the number of jobs that people claim. So we asked the question, like, what is your role? What do you work on in your organization? And where a few years ago they would have like checked one box, now they're checking, it was something like 40% checked 3 or more boxes, because they have such different responsibilities because of their single role. So yeah, to get out there, you realize I need to learn all these things. And I also think that keeps your career vibrant, right? To be constantly
it does. Well, it does, because just as an example, when I was, way back in the dark ages when I came out of school, is there were a few commercial relational database management systems, but not a lot. And then my senior project, 5 of us, we wrote a test relational database management system based on Todd and Date's theory. And we got it to do a couple of things, and it was fun. But then I started out in the database and the IMS as a DBA and system programmer. And then when they announced, hey, IBM is going to start coming out with DB2, I was like, hey, I'd love to get into that. And, I actually told the company, which was a Bell system at the time, I know I'd love to get into this. So you turned from one database into another. Then that went from, that for a while into distributed computing, into modern. So if you're constantly changing and learning stuff, you're growing. And I know, like you just said, 5 years ago, and you could probably there are still going to be people who will say, I've been a CICS programmer for 20 years. Or yes, but I can guarantee you that the way that they administer and manage the CICS system has changed. You're not doing it the same way you were doing it 20 years ago. And
oh, for sure.
An example, we were talking to young people, and they absolutely hate ISPF screens. Just because they're green but if you give them a VS Code terminal, they love it. So years ago, at one of the share booths, we put up a VS Code terminal and said, come write a Go program. And people walked up, okay, I wrote a Go program that did what? What's the big deal? I wrote a Go program. I do that every day in my job. I said, but you didn't realize this VS Code terminal is tied to a mainframe. And they were so shocked that, and that's one thing you learn is, everything at the Share Conference is about mainframes. And a lot of people are very surprised that you can say AI in mainframe. You can say DevOps in a mainframe. You can say Ansible in the mainframe. You can say distributed computing in the mainframe. And you can say containers, everything that you're used to can run there. And I think that's also a visualization when you're walking around. You mentioned the STE of walking around going, oh, you can do OpenShift on the mainframe. I didn't know that. And I love to hear that when I used to do mainframe modernization, is for someone to say, wow, I didn't know you could do that. And so I think it's that wow moment. You see that a lot if you just walk around and watch the people walking through STE to go, I didn't know they could do that, or I did. And also then they can bring that knowledge back to their own company that says, hey, we're trying to solve this problem. Do you know there's somebody that I met who's already solved this problem? Let's not reinvent the wheel. There's a vendor that provides a solution, or there's another company similar to ours that's going through the same pain. So it's actually, I used to say it's shared knowledge, but it's shared pain too. Is you may be having a problem, and you may think you're the only person who's having that problem, but somebody's probably either already gone through it and solved it, or is going through it at the same time, and you can kind of sit down and say, well, how are you solving that problem? And those, you'll see. Like I was saying, out in the hallways or out on the couches, people sitting down, actually talking. They'll be writing things down, and you can walk by and see diverse people from diverse backgrounds and diverse communities trying to solve problems while they're sitting there.
Absolutely. I think that's one of the things that is always impressed me by the mainframe community is the openness of everyone to share what they know and be just completely, let's help each other. We're gonna figure this out. There's very little, there's very little secret holding here.
Oh, well, and I think the mainframe community also understands at the Share Conference, the mainframe, regardless of what everyone said, the mainframe is not going away. Right. And so you're going to bring innovation to the mainframe. You're going to bring new things. And if you go, one of the things they used to talk about value is if you go to the Share Conference and you come back and you didn't learn something, or you didn't find something new, or you didn't try hard enough, if you just kind of immerse yourself and talk, but you're bringing value. A lot of people miss the fact that you're bringing value back to your company. You can say, we used to, you'd come back and we would send multiple people. You'd kind of have a debriefing session and say, okay, which sessions did you go to? Oh, I went to Amanda's session and she said this, and we didn't know that. And, there's those things like, I think, also what you guys do is a lot of the articles you do. I've seen people say, hey, did you read the article in Planet Mainframe about this? And, I'll say, I missed that one, but let me go look. I think keeping the knowledge growing, because the idea, or someone writes an article on DevOps and you say, wow, I hadn't thought about that. And I think that goes back to your initial point of the learning, the tribal knowledge. There's a lot, as my wife says, I have a lot of useless information up here that, when I do trivia, there's stuff that just pops up because it's stored way back here. But there's a lot of tribal knowledge that you learn. You have to lean on those people that share to say, when you were working on IMS, we had this problem, and they'll go, oh, yeah, you can do this and this and this and this. There's that, we have a lot of those roundtable sessions, and they call them BOFs, or birds of a feather, where people have a session just, if you want to get people and say, I think we're having this issue, and you say, can we get people together? You can do those, what they call them birds of a feather, but all it is you get a room for 30 minutes or an hour, and you just invite like-minded people to sit around and talk. It's almost like a mini hackathon where you just come in and you share. I hate to use the word share, but you're sharing your thoughts. And you're absolutely correct. Nobody is going to say, I'm sorry, I'm not going to tell you that. It's a secret.
Yeah, exactly. Like I've yet to encounter anyone that's gatekeeping helpful information in this space. I'm curious. So with the show coming up, and it is on August 16th is when it starts. What are you most looking forward to? What's your can't miss?
Well, I think that my can't miss is I've been doing this for 40 plus years. You get to see faces, you get to touch base with people that you've built your careers with. And one of the things that I always love to see the excitement, because as I said, I'm on the upper end of my career, and I like to see the energy continue to grow, because eventually when I retire, if that ever happens, is I want the community to be as vibrant as it is. And I like to see the new things pop. Like I said, you see these new ideas pop up, you see these new people coming in, you see the new technologies. And so I'm always charged to see, okay, and I kind of challenge myself, what new thing am I going to discover this time? And it never fails. There's always one or two, or, I'll sit back and look at the grid. And, this time I'm not doing a technical session, I'm doing a different session, but it's like, I'll look at the technical sessions and say, I don't know anything about this, so I want to go. So it's like, okay, what new thing can I learn this time?
Yeah, I love that.
And also I get, you can look at the speakers, and, we get inundated with articles and stuff, and it'd be like, hey, like for instance, a really good friend of mine is Joe Winchester. I always want to catch up to see what he's doing. And, you kind of keep up with what they're doing during the year on LinkedIn or other social media, and just kind of say, hey, what's going on? And I think it's also the camaraderie is, once you kind of get in the community, you want to talk to people. And that's what I go back to your initial point. If my one takeaway or my one goal for people, talk to people, get out there and share, ask questions. Don't be afraid to go everyone is approachable. Back to your point. I've never met someone that I walked up and talked to that wouldn't talk to me. So for this one, also this one, I did a panel yesterday with some other industry leaders on AI and the mainframe, what it's doing, where it's going. Yeah. And so I want to see, okay, based on real experience from real customers, what are they talking about? Let me talk to some of those customers there, really say, okay, what are you doing? What value are you seeing? And so, we kind of challenged the people on the consortium yesterday is, tell us really what you're doing. I don't want to know you're doing AI. Everybody's doing AI, but what are you using AI to solve problems in your company, to bring value? So so I guess my personal goal is I'm looking at the grid and thinking, hey, I want to go to that session because it's more of, I want to see what people are actually doing with it. So instead of the hype, I want to see the guts.
Right. I think it's so exciting. I think the schedule is looking amazing. I can't wait to hop in, see a few sessions.
It is, and the one good thing is pretty much in technology, if you look at the grid, there's something for every technologist, and as you said, you made a great point earlier, don't limit yourself to what you're comfortable with. If you're if you're a system programmer, go look at network, go look at AI, go look at DevOps, because your company is going to be changing. It's great to kind of have a head start on it. So
yeah, absolutely. Well, Dusty, I don't want to keep you too long. Thank you so much for your insights. And I think we're in the final countdown. We've got a little less than 60 days.
Yes.
Yeah.
So we will see each other at Share. We'll have a coffee and talk.
Let's do it. I will be there.